Welcome, Carson.
Thank you so much. As I said, I was not expecting as many people here this afternoon, so thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. So today, I have something a little different in store for you. And hopefully you're still going to enjoy it. I'm still going to do flower arranging. I'm still going to do ikebana, because it's a personal favorite of mine. But I'm going to tell you how I ended up here. Alright? And that's a bit of a fun story. And as I'm telling you the story, I'm going to be building an arrangement. And then I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to build another arrangement, and I'm going to do a third one throughout the course of the program.
You mean here in the library or in the county?
Here right now, today with you.
Today.
Yes, okay? But this story starts back a ways. So I grew up in an apple farm in small town Ontario. So I always grew up with gardening and tree care, and that was always part of who I was and where I came from. In fact, so much so that my job was to look after the vegetable garden. So I was a gardener all the way through. I grew up with plants, and the first thing I wanted to do when I was done university was get the heck away from gardening and plants and farming. So I thought there's no way that that is what I wanted to do. So I decided to go to school at the University of Windsor. And I decided to go there because their volleyball coach recruited me. And he said, come play volleyball for us. And I said, not in a farm, let's go. I'm out of here. So I went to the University of Windsor, and I spent a lot of time in the city. And in the city, I realized the thing that I miss most about back home were the plants. And I realized very quickly on that although I loved being in the city and there was lots of great excitement and the energy, I kept going back to plants for my stillness, for the quiet moments. And in that, I discovered ikebana, because ikebana is really the study of plants in silence. So I'm going to be silent for the rest of the time. No, I'm kidding. Impossible. So I learned that my passion for plants, because of where I grew up, led me to ikebana. And ikebana is really finding that perfect moment. The moment in plants where everything is in harmony. Now, ikebana is all about minimalism. So I won't put a lot of plants into this display. I'm just going to put a few in to create the aesthetic that I'm going for. And then what I like to do is transition it out. So in this situation, I was in the University of Windsor, and I was playing volleyball, and I very quickly realized as my student loans got deeper and deeper, that this probably wasn't the spot for me. So I decided to go out to the workforce. And I started working for Procter & Gamble in Toronto, in the head office. So I know a lot of people have affiliations with Procter & Gamble here, and I was a Procter & Gamble boy. And I loved it. I really did enjoy it. I helped launch a lot of new initiatives like white strips. I brought Febreze to Canada. I was part of the team that did that. We brought Iams to Canada. Loved every minute of it. It was exciting, but it was an indoor office job. And I kept thinking, I don't know that this is where I want to be. This isn't my long term. This is great short term, but not where I want to be long term. And then Procter & Gamble said, hey, we're looking for people to take voluntary packages. And I was like, oh, I'm at it. Let's go. I'm running for the hills. I'm going to go back to school. So I went back to school for landscape design. So I come by this honestly. So in school, I was there my first year, and the teacher said to me, what are you going to do for your co-op? I said, my co-op? He said, well, you have to work for the summer. I'm like, I worked my whole life. I've been at Procter & Gamble. I don't want to work. He said, you have to have a job for the summer or you don't graduate. And I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? So I was looking at co-op jobs because they had a co-op board. And the board was jobs and ideas around your actual career. And all of the jobs that they were listing were wheelbarrow jockey for a landscape company. I'd run the wheelbarrow. Or the other one was stonemason. All I would do was move stone around and move stone bricks. And I thought, there's got to be something better out there. I got to find something better. So I was sitting in a second year class. What's that?
Mommy, Daddy.
No, there was no. They had already said, you're good. Yeah. Exactly, they were farmers. You know how that works. So Mommy and Daddy said, you're on your own. So I found a job posting behind the scenes of a gardening show. And it was a gentleman named Ken Beattie. Now, Ken Beattie would teach this call-in gardening show on the Women's Network, the W Network, and he would answer people's questions. So they would call in, and he would answer their questions. Kind of like a radio show you might have heard of. So I was behind the scenes for Ken Beattie's show. And I would bring in all the plants for Ken's talk, and I would basically support him in any capacity he needed. And the producer of that show said to me, hey Carson, my friend is casting this other show. You should go and see her. I said, okay, let's go. I had no expectations. This was my summer job, so I could get my co-op program. So I went to this other job. And I showed up in a dress shirt and just blue jeans, no headshots, no nothing. And the producer said to me, so we want to do this TV show, and we're thinking about doing fantasy gardens. I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. And she looked at me and I said, don't do fantasy gardens. Do gardens that people really want. Show people how to have outdoor living. This was right at the beginning of the outdoor living phenomenon. And I said, you know, Stephen and Chris, the designer guys, have a great indoor show. Do that outside. So she seemed very pensive about it. She kind of thought about that. And she said, well, could you do 13 different backyards? I said, yeah, I think I could get 13 different backyards done. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to bring in the director. Let's talk to the director. So the director came in and he said, oh, so we're going to talk about fantasy gardens. So she said, no, that idea is done. And he's like, but Global had already said yes to it. I didn't know that Global had said yes to fantasy gardens. And she said, no, I think this other idea is a little bit better. This idea of showing people how to have beautiful living spaces. And she said, but I don't want to focus on plants. And I said, I really want to make sure we include plants, because plants and the harmony of plants and how we live in spaces is how we actually approach life in our outdoors. And plants are a big component of that, as you can see by this little arrangement that I've just done. And I said to her, I said, don't focus on just the building blocks. Don't focus on just the decks and the patios. That's still part of it, but make sure there's always some components about plants and how plants transition. So there is your first arrangement. All right, so now we're going to take this apart because plants die. And then she said, okay, well, if you could do 13 different gardens, we'll go ahead with that plan. And I said, great, let's do that. She asked me to leave the room. What I didn't realize was she was calling Global. She said to Global Production and said, hey, we don't want to do this fantasy garden idea. How about we do this idea of these beautiful outdoor spaces that include the harmony of plants with patios and views outdoor rooms? And Global said, sure. And she called me back in. She said, okay, would you like to host the show? And I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. I had no clue. So that was the beginning of Room to Grow. Now, Room to Grow was my very first TV series. And we did 35, 62, 75. We did about 75 episodes of that series. It ended up all around the world, in the US. I actually had a scientist from Antarctica email me and say they were watching my show on Discovery Network and it was the only piece of green they could see. So I thought that was fantastic, but I had no idea. And at the time, I was incorporating all of these different design information that I was actually going through in class. I went back to class to finish my second year as the show started to air. And all the students were looking at me, and this show's on Global, and I'm like, yeah, that was me. No idea what I was talking about. I had no clue. Because at the time, I was just talking about the things I was passionate about, like plants and patios and decks. And I started showing people how to use their outdoor spaces in ways they hadn't considered before. Unfortunately, one of those was artificial grass. So that was on me. So I started teaching people how to have backyard putting greens and how to have beautiful backyard spaces that were, gorgeous, and those bad words, low maintenance. I was teaching people how to have low maintenance spaces. And the whole time, I started forgetting about why I loved plants. So this is a tight one. So I stopped doing the things that I loved. So when we came to the county, and I had the opportunity to open a little garden center, this guy's not playing well, had an opportunity to open a little garden center, I said I really want a space to teach people how to have plants in their outdoors in a way that is in harmony with nature. Now you'll notice at my garden center, I don't do any landscape plants at all. I'm trying to teach people how to enjoy the moments of their backyard, much like we're doing with the Icky Bound Design, but at the same time, I'm tying a knot here for anybody who's curious as to why I'm doing this. At the same time, I want to teach people to understand what plants give back. So I wanted to focus on trees and shrubs and vegetables that grow food, or that supply birds, or that give back to nature. Because I felt the whole time on Room to Grow, I was teaching people the wrong things. So I came to the county with the intention that I was going to teach people how to love nature. Little did I know you already did. You didn't need me. So instead, what I started to focus on were the things that brought me joy. That perfect tomato that I grew in the perfect, when it's in the sun and just that warm flavor of the first time you bite into it. And I started doing that for myself. And more people started saying, well, I want to do that too. Had a great chat with Vicki Emlaw, Vicki's Veggies, and she's so incredible when it comes to growing produce. She knows her stuff. And I said to her, do you think more people would like to know this? And she said, yeah, it's growing and growing every single day, like it's leaps and bounds. So I decided that I would open up just that little garden center to do just that, to teach you how to grow food in case you didn't know it. And what I realized very quickly on was that was a bit of a success. In fact, a lot of people were really interested in growing food because they didn't know how to do so otherwise. So what I took for granted as a farm town boy growing up, a lot of people didn't know how to do or didn't know the impact of doing what they were doing. These guys don't want to play. All right, tie knots and all of them. So what's that?
Tie a knot.
Tie? Yeah, absolutely.
Stand.
Well, I'm going to talk about the techniques. I promise I'll get there. As I'm just doing them. Ikebana has like 3 or 4 things in, and then it's done. So I wanted to show you a few while I was talking about my past. So I decided that the garden center would be focusing on foods and vegetables and things that gave back to the community, and that it would be there for the community in all components. So then I ran into a person by the name of Lauren Brooker. Anybody know who that is? Oh, yeah, we got a few laughs on that. So Lauren Brooker has this little radio show. This one's not going to play. Has this little radio show in Belleville, and he asked me to come on. And I said, sure. And he was starting to talk to me about grass and the care and lawn and what types of things that, traditional people would talk about. And I said, Lauren, I don't want to talk about this. And he kind of looked at me and I said, talk about nature. Talk about bringing back nature and the importance of having plants in our homes and in our community. Talk about those types of things because that's what I'm passionate about. And he said, okay, let's do that. So we did that on the next episode of his show, and callers just kept calling in, and they didn't stop. And the producer said, hey Carson, would you ever consider doing your own radio show? I'm like, well, I don't know how popular it would be. I'm a TV guy, I've never done radio, I have no idea, but sure, let's give it a go. So that little radio show, which is called Take It Outside on CJBQ, has 20,000 listeners now. And it's people just like yourselves who care about plants and care about nature and want to know more because they feel better in nature, just like I do. So having beautiful outdoor spaces and beautiful backyards, oh, it's not playing nice, having beautiful backyards, creating nature in their own spaces. And I realized, as I was doing this, that I was not doing Ikebana anymore. I kind of stopped. I was focusing on other people's backyards and the things that other people loved in their space, but not the things that I was in love with. So I decided, hey, I should open a flower shop. So now we have a full-service florist program at the garden center, and we are doing just this. We're teaching people how to create beautiful moments in nature using Ikebana and all kinds of floral designs. So we have classes on this specifically. Now, when I talk about this, there's 3 things you need to know. Ikebana is all about minimalism. I don't know if you've gotten a sense of me yet, but I'm not very minimalistic. There's a lot going on in my life, a lot running around, a lot happening. But this is that one moment in my life where I get to sit back and just play and just create nature and create these perfect little vignettes and little moments that make me happy. And I love playing with plants that are just almost spent. They're right at the tail end. So these irises are right at the tail end. This guy does not want to play proper.
What have you got in the bottom?
So what I'm stabbing into?
Yes.
It's called a frog. Yeah, it's got lots of pins and needles. There's other ways, and I'm going to show you one without the frog. But there we go. Now, Ikebana, minimalism, asymmetry. You don't want it perfectly balanced. European flower arrangements, everything is perfectly balanced, everything is exactly square, everything's symmetrical. This type of style is all about asymmetry, out of balance. But at the same time, you still have to find the harmony in it. So what you're trying to do when you're creating these arrangements is you're trying to find the perfect combination of flowers as if it almost happened and you just stumbled across it walking along the path in the forest. And that's what I'm doing right now. You starting to see this one coming together? It's hard doing it backwards. I forgot how hard it is. Yeah, I'm going to do this again. Yeah, it's trickier than I remember. That's the hardest part.
You do the flowers in threes, right?
You can do it in pairs.
Yeah,
But when you do a pair,
no.
it doesn't look as good. The threes seem to work best. Threes, ones, and fives, odd numbers. Visually, it's more appealing,
Yeah.
which is unusual because when we see animals, we always want a male and a female. We like to pair our animals. But for plants, we like odd numbers. Is that starting to come together from that way? The beauty of Ikebana as well is it doesn't cost a lot to create. How's that come together, okay? Yep. Does it need something on the front, do you think? No, just as simple. I like it that way too. The other part of this is, when you're looking at costs, this whole arrangement, probably about $6. Yeah,
It looked fine.
yeah, it just kind of pops. I want to stab it in there, because I want it to last. Come on, I'm going to take it up 30 seconds. So you get the idea. So now we've created this space. The asymmetry is there. The balance is there because now we've created a surrounding vignette. So if this was sitting on a countertop, you'd actually have this beautiful moment. Then let's say the flowers start to die. We start taking them out. And now everybody who loves flowers hates this part when they take them all out and kind of throw them out. Because these are really just about done. Now we're going to play with something else. Let's make a big moment. And then with this, because we're creating balance, now we can bring in one down here. Aha.
That's beautiful.
And see how this is going to transition with the flowers in your garden? Hydrangea, maybe another hydrangea, maybe some mums, just some spray branches from the roses. It transitions in and out as the plants die. And you can always continue to add more and more complexity with it. Again, you're looking for asymmetry. We're going to take this one out. We're going to take that out. We're going to add some eucalyptus in there. And the eucalyptus is going to give us a bit more substance in the space.
Put an iris in between that eucalyptus.
You want to try an iris in the middle?
Yeah, between eucalyptus and the
Like in here?
no, maybe
I don't love that symmetry, no. But what I do love is another piece of eucalyptus instead of this.
Yeah, big valve.
Yep, so now we're starting to find the balance in the actual arrangement. I'm going to take him out too. And these are literally just scraps that I had chopped up from before. I'm going to take him out because I don't like him anymore. Put him back in. Let's go here. Now we need something focal. Well, no, he doesn't want to play this. Maybe he's not right. Let's go lower with this one. Yeah. So you can see every time you've reacted and gone, oh, that's lovely, or that's really nice, that's when we found the balance in the arrangement. I've done 4 arrangements in 17 minutes. So when you're doing Ikebana, there's no wrong answer. You're looking for asymmetry, you're looking for shape and space, you play with it, you move it around, you continue to use different elements from your own gardens. Just little bits, little scraps. I mean, obviously you don't have eucalyptus, and maybe you don't have plumosa, but there's all kinds of things that you can plant. Pussy willow. There's all kinds of little things that you can find, little branches, to create these perfect moments. Now I even want to add a little bit more here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it gives it a valve.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my favorite type of flower arranging because really there's no commitment. There's no right or wrong answer. It's movement and transition through looking for the balance. When you find that your lives are getting very busy or very stressful, I turn to the moments, the quiet moments of doing flower arranging to find my own peace. Which is why we opened the flower shop, so that we have more flowers available for me to play with. No. So that we have opportunity for people like yourselves to take on classes like this. So we're starting to teach more and more programs around this type of stuff. I have professional florists that have come in to actually show you how to do it, so that you can play with flowers too. Let's try one more before we wrap this up. Did anybody have any questions so far?
What kind of eucalyptus? Look at the equipment, Carson, I mean, the
frog.
the bowl.
The frog?
Yeah.
I know a good garden center that sells them. I will be honest, this little dish came from the Anglican Church Bazaar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was $3. Does it look familiar? Anybody donate that one? These are produce from Japan. I love Milwaukee because they're the sharpest ones and they hold their strength the longest. Now this is obviously too big for most people and not really the best for Ikebana because you're usually in there doing fine details, but they're mine and they just feel right for me. So, and that's it. There's no other tools. Now let's say we take the frog out.
Yeah.
So we're going to take the frog out. I haven't done this in a while, so this will be fun. And we actually use branches. So we push a branch down in there like that. So we've got it measured across.
Yeah.
Then we're going to take it and we're going to cut down the center of the branch. We're going to split it in half. And that little piece that we cut, we're now going to put it into the middle. We're going to create a bit of a space there. Not that much. We're going to put that down there, and then we're going to put this back in. As I said, I haven't done this technique in a while. Space that out, put that down in there to hold it. And now, I'm going to start using this to build my Ikebana. So I can start piling in here like this, pinching that down. So you can build these moments using just your found materials. Now it just popped right out. Ah, my branch is too weak, I think. Always happens in a live presentation.
We'll all go and get a frog at your place.
There we go. The frog is the best way to do it, yes. And then you continue to feed in pieces. It's okay. I have lots of it. We're going to continue to feed in pieces.
What kind of eucalyptus is that, Carson?
So I've got 3 different varieties here. So there are a few, we carry about 12 at the garden center. So this particular one is actually a seeded pod, but we took the seeds off of it. Do you know eucalyptus?
A little bit. I'm
From
not
being-
familiar with that kind.
No, yeah. They're growing more and more varieties for garden centers. And this one's not coming together as well.
You could use boxwood though.
Box would be a fantastic solution, absolutely, yeah,
A
gorgeous.
little bit like
Yeah, this one's not holding together the way I wanted it to. Anyhow, you get the sense. We should use a frog. Look at that, so much better. So even creating like this, and we talked about not twos. I'm gonna try a 2 and see if I can make it work for you.
Now, how much are the frogs then?
Oh, they're under $10.
Well, there you go.
Oh yeah,
Different sizes too.
and you can get different sizes.
And Valentine's is coming.
And there we go. Let's go back to the roses, speaking of Valentine's.
Oh, yeah.
So, Carson,
Yes.
so you're looking for a balance between, you said like minimalism and the bounty and, so I'm wondering, is there any form of Ikebana where they feel that they're modeling relationships?
Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Ikebana is about life. So you're creating the interplay and the interconnectivity between the plants and the flowers and life. Is that what you're referring to?
I was, when you were putting pieces in, like when you had the tall mum and the short one, it made me think of mother and child.
Absolutely.
And the 3
Yeah,
irises.
absolutely.
The 3 irises made me think of friends.
That's fantastic. I love that you've made that association. But that's absolutely what it's about, is to evoke an emotion or a feeling in a perfect moment showing flowers. And if you're pulling mother-child, or you're pulling family, familiar, or friends from the flowers, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. And it's such a simple little thing. Like I've played with these same flowers.
This one's a wedding.
This is a wedding. There we go.
It's got the in-laws.
I love that.
Your imagination is good.
How's that forming out nicely?
Yes.
What should we add? Any requests?
Nothing.
Something at the back here?
Yeah.
Do you think it needs it?
No.
No?
No, it's too much.
See?
Maybe the other eucalyptus, the one with the...
This guy?
This guy,
That's
yeah.
dried?
No.
dressed up.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna put that one in. That was from the arrangement before.
Oh, I
Yeah. All right, so then let's take these roses out. Let's try something else.
That would have been the dignity party.
Because that are almost
Exactly.
gone, right?
Exactly.
Because you're cutting the root and the stems, so there's more water going in, whatever.
Exactly. How deep should you cut on your rose or your flowers? Does anybody know the trick? For every hour that they're out of the water, they need to have an inch cut off the bottom.
Oh.
Okay? So when you're cutting really short, obviously you're going to extend the life as long as possible. And these guys, they're getting close. We bought these ones specifically to open for Valentine's Day because we were doing some photography. So these will last about another week. But as soon as you put them in this type of an arrangement, you extend that, you almost double it. So we'll get about 2 weeks out of these guys.
It's neat.
So we're going to come in a little bit lower. Going to come in with more seeded eucalyptus. So what type of flowers do you think would work great from your own gardens? I mentioned hydrangea. Yeah. Dahlias are fantastic. Just be careful on the dahlias. Often the big blooms are too heavy for the stems. And when you cut them short, you have to keep them low. If you try and do the big blooms up here, in like a day. Yeah. So dahlias will work in the smaller guys. Any other ones that you would use?
Daisies.
Daisies. Daisies will last weeks and weeks and weeks in an ikebana. They're a fantastic solution.
I like zinnias, even though they're gaudy and.
No, they're not gaudy. They're on trend right now. Yeah, zinnias are very, very popular right now. So this time I'm going to play it with symmetry in a different direction. So I'm going to clump lower and I'm going to go taller. I'm going to add a bit more of this.
Cornflowers.
Yeah, cornflowers, bachelor's buttons. Absolutely.
Yeah, echinacea.
What else does it need? Need something in here? Or does it need it up here? In the front? Is it something like this, or is it something else?
Something short.
Something short? Let's see what else we got. Perfect.
Oh, I didn't use it.
That's a lovely one.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little moment. Is it the right height or should it go lower?
Lower.
I think a little lower too, yeah?
I love poppies in the
See,
spring,
this
but they
is
don't
what I
last as soon as you bring them up too short.
Poppies are always a challenge because poppies leak out a specific sap that kills them off.
Yeah, I
So,
don't,
yeah.
I never pick them, I just leave them in the garden and enjoy them.
Perfect. If you want to pick them,
And
you
then
pick
they,
the poppies and you put them on a skillet. So a hot pan, you just sizzle the end.
oh yeah.
Yeah, seals all the goodness, it extends
I
them.
have them in their nest the rest of the summer, then it's all a big mess, but I can't stand to pull them out.
It's that moment where they look their best that you grow them in the
Yeah,
first place. I don't know
yeah.
if that's gonna work. Is that gonna play?
Yeah.
Alright, just a little pop. All you have to do is get skewer down onto these frog needles. It's the hardest part.
Just have to be careful on the skewer and
Ha
of those
I won't
frogs.
lie that that hasn't happened a few
Yeah, it happens
times.
to you or underneath your fingernail.
Yeah.
We're a
Yeah,
thimble.
we're a thimble. Oh, we have a sower in the house. There we go. Perfect. So little simple thing, just a simple little detail. Again, just 3 blooms. Now let's say the roses are dead. Let's take the roses out. What should we do next? How about some irises? Because they're blooming right now. So we're going to come back in with the irises.
I have always liked the using iris and pussy willows.
I do too.
In the
Yeah,
same-
absolutely. Yeah,
in the same
absolutely.
way.
So let's do that. I've got some pussy willows
And
here.
then you can bend the pussy willows.
Yes, and
to
create
make
some
it
shade. I'm going to actually point this iris a little bit more out. Because everything I've done so far has been upright. So this time I'm going to move more out.
I don't think I have any.
You know what this is?
You would push.
Yeah, and they're spent. That's why they look the way they do.
Yes. Yeah, you know the roses that you have.
Yes.
Are they now grown in greenhouses here, or do they still come from Africa? as well?
Most of them come from the U.S. Most of the
From the
flowers that we're
US.
bringing in are from the U.S. And that's because of the environmental regulations about importing plants. So the U.S., ecosystem-wise, is very similar to ours. So most of the plants that we're growing aren't from Africa anymore. They're from just south of the border.
Oh, good.
And we have a lot of Canadian companies too, but for volume, It's mostly US.
It must be, because I saw these dreadful documentaries of the people who have to work in these places
Yes.
in Africa.
That and coffee,
Yeah.
chocolate, everything.
So is it inspiring you to go out and steal all the shrubs from your gardens?
You'll see all of us in the ditches.
Yes.
And then the trees crash.
So Carson, is it all right to go and snip your bushes now?
So there are some bushes that do very well at this time of year for pruning. Pussy willow, forsythia, both of those are fantastic for forcing. The other things like the flowering almonds or the cherry blossoms, you have to wait until the buds actually start to swell. But pussy willows, forsythia right now, we've been pruning them and forcing them in the garden center, and they're fantastic. In fact, these guys came from my tree. So, yeah.
So if you're burning bush,
Mhm.
can you use it?
You can, but you're only going to get green leaves. There's no color until the fall.
That's
of the
right,
bush.
but
You could use green, yeah, you could get green growth out of it. Again, the forsythia is going to be better than the
Yeah.
burning bush because it'll go from the yellow blooms to the green. Even willow and birch, some of the scrubs. Ivory silk halo dogwood will probably do it too for red sticks. You can probably get it to sprout up as well.
okay.
Okay? Cool. I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to talk. I just keep talking until you tell me I'm not supposed to. How long was I supposed to go today? 6 o'clock. Perfect. Who said, let's make one more? I'm getting low on things. Now, would you put that in there?
Yes.
Some people say yes, some people say no. The point is, there's no wrong answer. When you're doing these types of arrangements, just have fun with it. Enjoy. You've seen how many times I've changed this around, and I keep going shorter and shorter on the flowers. Yes, they don't have a lot of purposes left, but the truth is, we're enjoying them for what they are. Right? This is a spent bloom. It's already been cut.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate or feel bad about making it shorter or making it work in the space. But when in doubt, start taller and work your way down, as I've done with all of the arrangement today. I started tall and I kept going slower and lower and lower. Okay? Have some fun with it. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. Any questions?
Fantastic.
This was from the seed.
I used to do at Gavanna years ago.
Okay.
And what I loved best was using pussy willows in the spring and gently bending
Mm-hmm.
like
To create the
so,
shape. Yeah.
and so they create an arc.
Love it.
And it was wondrous. and
Yeah.
Amazing how they would stay shaped.
Yeah, absolutely. But most importantly, you have that memory.
Yes.
And you can picture them vividly in your mind. Can anybody picture the last puzzle they finished?
Yes.
I can. Oh, you did one last night. You can? I've done, I think, about 60 puzzles. I can't tell you the last one that I finished, but when it's done, it's check and you move on. It's put it back in the box and move on. But with these, it's much like a puzzle. You're finding the spaces, you're finding the movement, it's exercising the same muscles in your brain, but at the same time, you're creating something unique to yourself for minimal costs. You don't have to spend a ton of money to enjoy flowers and enjoy plants.
Sustainable.
And more sustainable.
You give your puzzle away. This one,
Well, no, you bring them to the library and you donate them to the library.
it's true.
It's true.
It's all full of
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to pass around the frog so you can see it, so everybody can understand what we're talking about here, as I'm making a mess. So that is a frog. So it's just sharp pins.
What oasis?
So here's the thing about Oasis. And I'm looking for a better alternative, but Oasis is made of recycled plastic. And it's ground and formed into that block. As that dissolves and breaks down, all those little micro bits of plastic end up in the landfill, end up in the environment, and gets ingested by fish. So I'm trying to move away from Oasis, but it will work. The problem with Oasis, though, is you can see it.
Yeah.
Right? It's very visible in the pot unless you're using a solid dish. And I've done that. I'll use a chunk of Oasis thinly sliced in a solid dish, but as the Oasis absorbs water and the weight of the plant pushes on it, it will start to drop like this.
Now the size of the, you've got a short one, but you
Yeah.
can use taller vases.
Of course, you can go any height you want. Again, you're creating the moment. The thing about the taller vases, and I find with Ikebana, is when you're building up this way, up here where the flower is, looks natural, but the rest of the vase looks very man-made, very contrived, because the focus becomes the vase, not the flower so much. Where it's a little shallow dish, the focus is here and here. And that's what you're really trying to draw the eye to, is that moment. Other things that work well in this design, cattails. Little cattails look fantastic. What's that?
Amaranth?
Amaranth, love lies bleeding. It's a beautiful one, absolutely. That cascading red out of there, gorgeous. So what I've done in the past is I'll do a beautiful piece with 3 cattails that I've cut, and I've got the little, the feathered birds with the little clips.
Yeah.
I put a little goldfish on there. Just a perfect little moment. Just leave it on my counter, and every time I look at it, it reminds me of nature. It brings me back to my happy place. This, as disastrous as it is right now, made me happy. Just playing with these plants just now made me happy.
Too, watching it.
So what a simple little thing. So hopefully, after today's little presentation, it was just a little one, you got a glimpse of who I am. You understand why I ended up here doing what I'm doing. You understand what brings me joy. And I've shared that with you, and I hope that this will bring you some joy as well. Thanks, everybody. I made it all the way to 3 o'clock. Woo, nice. Did anybody have any questions other than what we've discussed so far?
No, I just wanted to say, in winter time, it gives me joy to come into your greenhouse.
Thank you.
We do it regularly. We just wander through the
That we are part of the community, and that's what we're there for. And I don't.
And somehow when you wander, you always find something you can't live without.
Gee, that's terrible.
Or for someone else.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It all went through last year
And
with the snow.
everybody is welcome. Absolutely. Yep.
I was the one that wanted the espresso machine.
All right. I remember.
Chairs, I was trying to lobby for that,
Oh,
didn't go anywhere.
So I have some good news for you. This is I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. Flossie's food truck isn't coming back this year,
Okay.
but we have a new company that's joining us for food, and they have an espresso machine. So it's Kaleidoscope Catering is going to be joining us on site, and if you've heard of them, they're
Good.
fantastic. So they'll be on site all season long with coffee and espresso and baked goods. And we're adding more chairs and tables so you can sit in amongst the plants.
Oh, that's.
Yay! Perfect. Again, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Carson,
Uh-oh.
thank you so much.
You're welcome
This
so
is
much.
the Passion Series.
Oh, good.
Friends of the Library, and we set this up. We want people to talk about what they're interested in, what their passions are. Passion, we've had 40 minutes of pure passion, joy, and delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The Friends of the Library have put a book into our library called Ikebana, The Art of Flower Arranging.
It's the good one. It's the Bible for Ikebana.
And with your name in the front, and once again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.